Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to Culz Interviews. Today we're going to be talking some archaeological work, as well as some current science, and maybe some stuff that we've forgotten throughout the years, thousands of years perhaps. We got some awesome guests from RKEO X, being Jared and Kristi. How you guys doing today?
Doing good.
Doing great. Thank you for having us.
No, thank you guys for joining. Before we get into this, perhaps for anyone that has not heard of RKEO X, would you two be able to describe and perhaps just explain why you thought it was a good thing to create?
Oh boy, there's a lot there, but the short is
Unpack it.
Yeah, unpack it. Go
okay.
as long as you want. It's fine.
All right. So the idea of it came from I wrote a book called "It's Not Aliens, Worse It's Us: Discovering a Lost History," and behind it was like what's with our megalithic ancient past, what's with our things that we consider paranormal or we've deified or mystified. It seemed like there was a lot of our not only prehistory missing, but that there's a lot of evidence for an advanced human civilization. I thought that in the things I'm interested in, from Wim Hof and breathing, and I got into the paleo thing, and there's meditations, and all of it seemed like, what, I think all of it's really related. And I think that if we were to have the inception of the company was when I got together with a group of Tom Elmore and some other people, and we did satellite imaging to find Mayan ruins, but the goal wasn't the Mayan ruins. This was an expedition uh, almost well, just over a year and a half ago, and that took months of planning. And the idea was, in the field, whether it's Egypt or Peru or where we were in Belize, the idea was, can we monetize, and not just to make pointless profit, but can we make a business out of discovering our lost past? But can we also implement what we learn, whether it's frequencies, energies, and consciousness? How can we reactivate some of these things that we consider mystical or downloads or paranormal or whatever? And how does it all work together? And part of that is the physical need to discover our past, and part of it is this consciousness side of it. So I thought the inception of it was to, however the research and the work would take us, whether we were doing, educational videos, or whether we were we were going to do documentary. The idea was to put together a group and do it. So I stumbled into all that, and somehow the universe put all the right people into the right places. And now it would be a good time for you to meet my co-founder, Kristi.
Who just came into the scene.
If you count months, you've been involved for months.
It's been a minute.
It's been a long minute.
I didn't even really understand all of the components of the project until I got to Belize. So I'm not really sure what that says about my judgment. But I did fly to Belize without much of a clue of what I was going for. But I just thought it sounded like fun. So I went, and it was really fun. We had a great time. But they contacted me because I work for a LiDAR company. So RKEO X, actually, Tom Elmore reached out to me, and the company I work for does aerial LiDAR. So we fly fixed aircraft, not drones, just the real thing. No offense to anybody that's into drones. And so they called to get some quotes, and what's super cool is, for my line of work, we do a lot of things in oil and gas and conservation and just different industries, a lot of engineering work, construction work, and things like that. But we don't do a lot of archaeological work, which is sort of like my backdoor passion. And so when I got the call from Tom about the mission in Belize, I was immediately just engaged, sucked in, and excited. And so I think that's probably what got me on the trip, was just, I was so excited. They were like, I don't know, she's just really excited, so maybe we should invite her. And there I was. I ended up there, and then it was just history after that.
I will tell you that I've met a lot of excited people that are into everything that I do, that the group does. The thing is that Kristi, to give her more credit, the reality is that everyone. I had done an expedition prior to this. It involved 10 people, and it took 4 months of planning. And that was with the momentum of everything else that I was building. So there was a lot of work to get that first expedition done. But Kristi's interest, it's like, hey, she said she was into all this, this stuff that you and I we were all talking about before the show started. And it's like, okay, well, okay. So she's got the lighter thing down. Let's see what all she's into. And the reality is that she really has her mental tentacles in a lot of the exact stuff that we're all into. And she seemed to, because again, I knew how hard this expedition was going to be. I knew that we didn't want any of the drama we had on the last one. And we wanted people that would participate. And the reality is that she would be far selling herself short if you didn't know that, it wasn't just like, yeah, you should come along, this would be fun. It was like, hey, she spilled a lot about exactly what her passions were, but she could speak to it, not just like, oh, it's an idea. She actually, it seemed like she had a good, like, there was a good broad spectrum range of skill sets that she had that I'm like, yeah, okay, this will fit. And then went through the group, and well, here she is, co-founder. We're doing it again too. We're going back.
We are. We're going to go back in May. So we're going to take a group back with us in May. We're really excited about that one because we've already started uncovering some ruins. And so the people that we take back with us will get to see the work that we've started and meet some of the villagers and have an opportunity to do like cave tours. And so one of the things that I did a couple of years ago was I went to Peru and got certified to teach breath work. So there will be daily opportunities for breath work and yoga, and it'll be fun.
Yeah. And by the way, cave tour, the reality is that this is a cave that was discovered in 98. And it's not one room. It's more like the inside of a hollowed out mountain. It's more Lord of the Rings size. But they told us it was a 45-minute hike. It was a 2.5-mile hike into the mountains.
Okay, there's a huge difference. I'm sorry to interrupt you here, Jared, but I'm going to do it. Listen, when you're a Belizean in rubber boots, you can move fast. When you're an American in a pair of on tennis shoes, nope. It's 2.5 hours. So if you're a short, it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter your height. If you're a Belizean, you can make it 45 minutes. It takes North Americans, 2.5 hours to get to that cave. It's fine though. It's a good hike.
Into the mountains.
Into the mountain.
Not like a hike. And then you get to the top part for the last 200 feet, and then you go like that. You've already gone like that, and then you go like that.
But to not scare anybody off, you don't need ropes. You don't need any of excuse me, you don't need any of that stuff. You can actually just walk it. You just have to be mindful of where you step. But then once you step into the cave, it's like stepping into another world. It was surreal. Literally otherworld. It was surreal. It was it felt like not on this planet. It didn't feel like we were on Earth anymore. It felt like we had stepped into some other planet. It was just amazing. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen.
And that was day one. And the Mayans were in those caves. They found giant potteries. They were definitely known to the Mayans. So it's a real interesting thing. So it's not something that everyone gets to do, what we're talking about, but there'll be that. The ruins that we are already working on, like we were busy uncovering 8 pyramids, but there's more there. There's 350 acres of buildings and constructions that are all buried in the jungle, and they're farming on half of them. And literally you can't see them because the compost is built up, so it just looks like a giant hill, but it's compost, so it's really rich for growing. So all these subsistence farmers are hand farming an acre on the side of, like, that's a pyramid, that's a pyramid, that's a pyramid, that's a pyramid. And they're just working on them to survive.
But it's history that's being worked on to survive, and they don't know.
No.
They don't know. They're just trying to survive. It's like, I look at it like Maslow's hierarchy. You can't move up to the next rung until you've reached the first one. And they're in survival mode. They're not worried about preserving artifacts or history, or they're just worried about feeding themselves and their families. They don't care where they're digging or where they're planting or where they're doing any of that stuff. It doesn't really make a difference to them. They're just trying to eat and survive.
So the ruins that we want to take, so this expedition is at the end of May going into June. It's on our website on RKEOX.com. Want to bring people, but also it's what we're talking about is in an area of Belize that's known because it's not very far. It's about like 20 minutes from where the Mitchell Hedges crystal skull was found. So we're going to go to that site. We're going to go to some other sites. We have some really cool dinners and some entertainment planned. But the reality is that it's not going to just be a tour. It's really more of an expedition that you'll get to choose your own adventure on. You know, you can sit some of it out. You can hike up to something like this Lord of the Rings mountain, or you can do all the other stuff. But it should be pretty fun.
Sam, it's right up your alley. Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Sam, you should come with us. Oh my gosh, can I share my screen?
When I say cathedral, think of a cathedral, big dome inside, you know, paint it all up. But you're in one cathedral, then you go through a doorway, and you go into another room that looks like a cathedral, and another one that looks like an amphitheater with 80, 90-foot ceilings. And the mouth of the cave when you exit is 180 feet. And that's only because part of it collapsed and the cave system keeps going into this other mountain. And it's really spectacular. It's outer world.
Okay.
It's definitely not. Lord of the Rings is the best description. All I can picture is here it comes.
So here's the beginning. We had already been 2.5 miles. So 2.5 miles, is that right? Or 2.5 hours? I don't remember how. It was 2.5 hours hiking through the woods at that point. Okay. So this is the inside of it. And this is what it looks like all the way through. And you have to be really careful not to touch these, because if you touch these from the ceiling, I can't remember which is the stalagmites and
that's from the floor.
On the floor, and
yeah,
the
stalactite
from the ceiling. Yeah, so these, you can't touch any of these. And what's super interesting about this is this isn't like a normal cave tour. Jared looks like he's struggling. We did have to crawl through this little space here, and that was the beginning of it. So
Wow,
that's
awesome.
That's the opening. You can actually kind of just crouch through that opening right there. And then you just crawl through this little spot right here, and then it opens up into this giant cathedral.
That's the low ceiling. Remember, the rooms go up to 80 to 90 feet, not like in a spot, but like think of an amphitheater, 80 feet up, and you're standing in this massive room, and then you go in the next one is just as big, and you're like, how is this possible?
Yeah, no, I love caves. I've been in some in like Kentucky, and then here in Colorado, my grandparents actually helped spelunk and map out some of the caves here. So they've been in rooms that you can't even visit today because
wow.
Yeah. So I love
I'm out on that.
Caves and
with
stuff.
Look, water inside of caves.
Mm-hmm.
And just
There's one in New Mexico. Oh, Sam, what was that called? We visited. It's like the Blue Hole.
Oh, the Blue Hole.
Yeah, it's a hole that filled up due to a cave collapse. And so now you can actually scuba dive down like 80 feet into this like cave.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm out, because that's probably where the aliens are.
There's one of the grand.
Pretty sure they're in the oceans.
Mm-hmm.
So.
No. I'm not going in, but.
He said no. I'm out too. Like, I have boundaries. Okay, I'll go in dark caves above sea level all day long. When it comes to water and things that can move faster than me, which cats can too, and a lot of jungle creatures can move fast. You know what? It's just the whole slow-mo thing. It's like when you have a dream and you can't, and you're trying to punch somebody in your dream. Not that I'm aggressive at all, but just, when you're trying to punch somebody in your dream and it's like, oh, I can't do it. It's like that. That's how I feel when I'm in water and something's after me. Although that's never happened. I've thought about it so much. I feel like it could just be manifested. So I'm just now very careful about getting in the water.
Yeah, get in the oceans. I can definitely see that. I have a weird life goal of going to the Amazon though and swimming with an anaconda. So
no, you don't, because that's how you get swallowed.
I mean,
Sam knows.
No,
are you ready to transition out?
No, he just.
we have a
No.
place that lets you hold snakes, and they have an anaconda, and like every time we go, they're like, I get closer and closer, and they're like, no, like I'm just like, "Oh, I just want to hold it." Like,
Yeah, without
No.
fail. Every time he's like,
What's
"Can I
the
hold the
deal?
anaconda?" And they're like, "No."
they're like, how about this
Why?
large python instead? And I'm
No.
like, I don't want the
No.
python.
But why? Why would you want to hold something that could swallow your whole body?
I don't know. It's just one of my
That-
favorite animals. I'd love the opportunity.
It's not an animal. What an adrenaline rush that would be. My gosh.
Yeah.
Like shark
You
hugging.
know what? The people, I'm not going to judge you. There's a lot of people that want to do a lot of crazy things. That's one of the crazier ones. But, you know, you do you, boo. Whatever.
See, now skydiving off the table.
Oh my gosh. So my son's like, he's fixing to be 15 for his 18th birthday because I cannot bring myself to sign the waiver for him. And then, my God, something happens. And then I just would never be able to live with myself. Right?
Yeah.
So for his 18th birthday, that's what we're doing. We're jumping out of an airplane. I'm terrified of heights, by the way. Terrified. Didn't know that until I went to the Grand Canyon in 2015. But it's a promise I made. So jumping out of an airplane, I got 3 years, guys. 3 years left. I've been counting them down for 10. So 3 years left.
Maybe then he'll want like a horse.
He's had those. He loves horses.
They
I
might change his
don't
mind.
have my backyard, first of all, isn't big enough for a horse. And second of all, they're just a money pit. And third of all, just no. Like,
Yeah.
I'd rather jump out of an airplane than
See-
buy another horse.
Sam can tell you a very funny story because I also am afraid of heights, but I always put us at some point at the highest location we can possibly be at. And so we were in Chicago, which is we went to the Sears Tower, and I love being up in that building. It's my favorite building. But they have the glass floor where you walk outside of the building. And it took a couple times, right, Sam? But what did the lady say?
The lady that was like taking the pictures, because they do that, the whole touristing pictures. Don't fall, Missy. She was just like, I mean, it's just like a haunted house. And he was just like, no, haunted houses are nice. They're safe. They're on the ground.
You're like, this is not safe. It's not on the ground. It's suspended.
It just like goes against like your instinct when you're walking and you see the edge of the building. It says do not walk past that edge of the building. Like survival. But to get kind of back on topic, archaeology, history, whatever you want to call it, finding all this new information or lost information. What was the spider that bit you? Like, what got you guys down this road?
Ooh. I don't know. Chris, do you want to go first? Do you want me?
I think you should probably take the lead on RKEO X, and then I can jump in where I picked up.
Well, okay, so I'll start because actually, Keegan, I forgot you did say go in alphabetical order, so I should have answered first. I apologize. But I usually check with her, since this is how we do it. So what got the bug though? What got me started on all of this? So I've always been curious. My dad, it was a little annoying because we didn't have cable or anything. We just had television, and my dad loved history. So if it was Nova or who doesn't like Leonard Nimoy and In Search Of, right? I grew up watching all the shows, and then it's like, can't we just watch Family Ties or something, or something stupid? I wanted to watch Muppets. He did like them up, but I just was like, I like dinosaurs, I liked mummies, I liked Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I'm like, let's find the golden monkey. I like all this contemporary stuff. I like what I was sold. And you go to the Natural History Museum and you see the loincloth rock banging cavemen, and you're like, no, I'm not interested. And then you think about Stonehenge and like primitive people built it, and I'm like, not interested. I think what really got me was just this feeling, oh yeah, that. Who doesn't like that? And I guess what it was at first, it was like, okay, I want to know more about my past. It actually started with World War II. I just kind of went backwards, and I kept going and I kept going. And then there's a tipping point where it went from just a curiosity about the past to me going, what the hell? I'm like, this doesn't add up. And I'm a recovered Catholic. And I'm like, what with the, none of the questions, you don't get the questions answered, and none of this seems to work, and no one seems to have it right. And it's just, I had this feeling about it, and it was just really bugging me. So I think I went down, and I always knew that I wanted to write. And I don't know, it's just, I think the one, if you're looking for one point, what got me into history was my grandfather being a tank commander in World War II, and that got me all the way back to dinosaurs. But then I think what got me down this road to write about it was just this feeling that would never go away, that we had everything wrong. And the whole rock banging people with the it just didn't seem right. So I got this thing. I took all my interest in looking at the past, and I just started concentrating on things like Baalbek and the details of the pyramid and stuff like that. So this is, I don't know, it's always been an interest, but there's not like one tipping point, because I just can't turn it off. Kristi?
Yeah, so mine was religion, plain and simple. I wasn't raised in church, and so that was something that was just visited, when I would go with friends and things. If I'd spend the night with them on the weekends, and they were involved in church, then I would visit with them. And so I wasn't raised in church, but I married someone who was raised in church, old Southern Baptist, just very old school. And so it was an abrupt change, I guess, in perspective. And I went with it for a while, and then we ended up changing churches because of it. I couldn't reconcile things, and then so we ended up changing churches. And then I got into mission work, and that's where I really started feeling like something was just kind of like not really resonating right, just the delivery of things versus what we're doing. It didn't really feel, it kind of felt like we're holding salvation hostage a little bit, if that makes sense. Like we're kind of holding salvation hostage, receive these services and these goods, and then you can, there's just also just, it's a different language. We're moving from English to Spanish. We're using translators. There's things lost in translation. And so all of these things just, it's nothing against mission work. Mission work is amazing and needed and wonderful and amazing in so many ways. But for me, it just, I'm lean more toward humanitarian than mission work, if we could call it that, just because there's not really a motive behind, I feel like, humanitarian work other than just doing the work that needs to be done. Whereas with, when you go in as a mission, it's like your mission is to do all these good things so that they will. And I had that was hard for me, like I just felt like good work should be done because good work should be done, because we're human and we love each other and we're all one, not for a prize or to go to a certain place, or, so for me, it was in a relationship with different perspectives and worldviews. And so once I went down the rabbit hole trying to understand myself and the things that didn't resonate within, I ended up at a plant medicine retreat in Ecuador for 3 weeks. And so I got to hang out with Mother Aya for a while, and little San Pedro. And then, so that kind of helped straighten me out. And then while I was there, I actually was able to do a breathwork session, which was profound. And I had never experienced breathwork before. It was so profound that I ended up a month later in Peru learning how to teach it, because it was, to me, just as profound as the plant medicine was. And so, yeah, I guess my involvement in all of this is just really the study and trying to understand how our consciousness operates within this 3D universe that we live in, and trying to understand how all the pieces fit together, because I know that they do. And there's a lot of history that has been erased, or, you know, whether intentionally or unintentionally, is not there anymore. And we have to go looking for it, and we have to dig for it, and we have to try to understand it, and we have to connect all these pieces. Like, for example, breath work. I feel like that's a natural bodily function modality, that's a healing modality, like grounding, you know, but we don't hear or know about those things. You know, grounding in the 70s was discovered by a cable man, you know, in the 70s. No, it was way before the 70s, because also then shoes became a trend. It wasn't a utilitarian thing to make it through a patch of thorns or the jungle. It was a trend, you know. So now here we go, separating our feet from the earth even more. So it's just all of these different things, these modalities, healing modalities like yoga, breath work, meditation, grounding, that I think that we are born to know and forget, or born without the information now, because it's just been so far removed from our DNA generationally, if that's a word. But I feel like there's a lot to life that we don't understand, and a lot to healing that we don't understand. So to sum it all up, that's how I ended up in RKEO X.
A couple extra steps, and then I dared her, and then she did it.
And then I just jumped right off in it.
That's fair. Yeah, that's two very different paths into what you did, or what you are working on now, I should say. So plant medicine, was that more on the lines of like dimethyltryptamine, or DMT as it's abbreviated as?
Yes. So it is. Ayahuasca is a mixture. It produces DMT, which is our brains naturally produce. Mm-hmm. And it's a big combustion when we're born and when we die. We're able to produce it during certain types of breath work. And then it's also induced by plant medicine. So the difference in a normal DMT, just a dose of DMT, and ayahuasca is your DMT experience is typically, 5 to maybe 20 minutes, whereas ayahuasca is a good 10 to 16 hours. It's a long time of you're in it, you're there, you're just there. Yeah. So it's a little more, I don't know how to describe it.
It's more,
and I feel like journey. Probably a lot of people, that it is a journey. It's a journey. It's a journey, and you don't know what you're going to see, or what you're going to face, or how you're going to. You just have to do it, and then you come home and you integrate and you process, what was shown to you, because plants have intelligence that go way that predate us. There are plants with intelligence on this planet that predate us, that know way more than we do. And even though we can't communicate with, I can't just walk out to a tree in my backyard and have a conversation, there are properties within plants that we can ingest, that we can communicate with and through. And I definitely believe that there are ways to communicate through plant medicine.
So, Jared, I have some questions regarding, obviously, what made you want to write your book, but also you recently experienced an event, life-changing event. I don't know if you'd want to talk about that, because we recently had
he definitely died.
Keegan, you want me to answer this question?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go at it again.
We recently had Jason Denon on here, who went through his own experience where he was skydiving and did something. I won't say what, because I just realized what Kristi said at the beginning. But then he was in a coma for 8 days. And so he described a lot of his dreams, but it sounds like from what I've listened to you don't remember that portion, right?
No, they put me on fentanyl and about 4 other drugs that you can buy and smoke, and I was on all of them at the same time. Yeah, and they basically said their theory is if you don't remember, you'll feel better because you won't remember the trauma. Thing is that they didn't just delete the event day. I like have no recollection of 2 or 3 days prior. I have no idea. I was laying one of my favorite places on earth, actually. Um, Dan would probably appreciate this. Is it's a place called Milk and Honey Cider, and it's in St. Joe's, Minnesota, which is about 40. It's like an hour drive, but it is one of the best cideries. It's incredible. I love this place. I like the energy. I like the vibe. And I'm laying in this. I was in a coma 8 days, and I'm laying there on all these drugs. And I remember about 4 days out, I'm like, I want to go back to social. I want to go. There's another place called Sociable that I really like, but I'm like, I want to go to Milk and Honey, and uh, a picture was pulled up and shown to me, and I was at St. Joseph at Milk and Honey 2 days before I died, which we didn't really get to. Yes, so I died 7 times medically. I was dead for 45 minutes clinically, and I died 7 times. My heart had a cardiac arrest. I had a heart attack, and then I had a cardiac arrest. So my heart stopped. They got it started. They did it again. They did it again, and they did it at maximum. So I had a burn mark. The paddle burn mark, not on the, they had 2 paddles, but the burn mark was here. And they paddled me at maximum. And I had like a team of doctors, and they were, this one was Indian, and he said, I had to meet you. So so I walk out of ICU. So I die. I'm in a coma 8 days. I'm in ICU for 17. I walked out of ICU. No one does that. 91% of the people die from this particular heart attack, the Widowmaker. It's called a Widowmaker for a reason. 20% of the 9% who live are mostly cognitively functional. So I walked out of ICU and went straight to Rocky Rococo's Pizza with the family. That's what I did. That's the short of it.
I mean, what is that like? Like, how did that change your viewpoint on life?
Well, so you got to picture this. I'm like 2 weeks earlier, if it had happened while I was in Belize, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you guys. I was in Belize for almost 3 weeks. We had, again, used satellite imaging. We had found multiple potential Mayan target sites that could have been ruin sites over on this 7,000-acre plot of land for a private homeowner. So I wanted to see what we could do to locate, as a company, like the inception of RKEO X was, we're going to do this. We're going to film it. We're going to do documentaries. We're going to do educational stuff, and we're going to go at our dynastic history along with our prehistory. So I'm like, this is our first start. And so you have to picture this as like, I do historical remodeling, design, build, and I have clients. I have my book out. I do podcasts. I'm trying to get the business going. So the thing is that I'm not a person who is wondering about who am I going to be or what am I going to do. I had bought my first real estate when I was 19, and I had a voice. I had always said I was going to make movies and write books. I'm like, I was going to get to it. I'm going to get to it. And then I had this little 8-unit apartment building. I'll never forget it. I was by a really cool coffee shop right across the street, and literally a voice said, sell it. It was an internal, external voice that went, sell it. You need to write. And I'm like, okay. So I literally got on the phone with this friend of mine, because I was a realtor. I was a contractor and a realtor at one point, but I wasn't anymore. And so I called up my friend and I said, hey, sell my building. I'm going to write a book. And before I knew it, the trail to write that book was 14, 15 months. And that really outlined a little bit. RKEO X RKEO X is huge, but RKEO X is actually a little bit of what my book is about. And so when I wake up out of this coma, I'm giving everyone the background, because usually it's like, oh, I'm going to stop smoking, or I'm going to quit drinking, or I'm going to go on a really cool trip or an expedition with RKEO X to Belize in late May into June. Got that in. But if you're going to, great. But my evolution, my curiosity was I trained how to do Wim Hof breathing with Wim Hof the first time he was here in America. I've always been on this journey. So when I wake up, it's not, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. It's like, well, crap, I got to go back to Belize. I got to write my second book. I have to re-release my first book. I have to keep doing my podcast. I have to, all I'm thinking about is the 8 clients that I've left because I was in a coma. And so when I woke up, it wasn't like I wish I could tell you I saw the light. Maybe I did, but I was on a lot of drugs. And that sucks because Kristi's the first person to say, maybe there's a way we can work on recalling it. Like maybe there's whether it's plant medicine, whether it's hypnosis, whether it's like all the methods, right? Maybe there's these ways that I could actually recall that period. And then the ways in which it's changed me is that, a lot of people, I'm not used to other people going, oh my God, you died. And I died a lot. And I was dead a long time. I don't recommend trying it first off. And also, I've already died enough. I don't really want to die anymore. I'm good. I've died enough. But I think that the impact of it for me is that I was already on the journey of living a life that I'm not saying it's perfect or it's right or anything. It's just that I already know I know a lot of what my questions are or what I want to figure out. And that drive has always been there. Like people like, I think 100 years is too long to live. And it's like, are you kidding me? It's like we don't even know what's at the bottom of the ocean, let alone what's on every other planet and how this whole thing works. It's like, how do you not want to know? How do you not want to experience it? How do you not want to try this? How are you bored? How are you done?
Blows my mind. It blows my mind. What you're saying right now blows my mind. The fact that there is this obvious division on the planet between people who are asking questions and people who are just okay to just live. It's less blurred and it's a definite line.
Yeah, and it's not like, and again, there's different layers to this. There's the people who are asking questions or they're really fascinated with one subject. All the power to you. Great. You don't have to be fascinated with everything, but my interests are in the whole thing. I want to integrate. I don't want to disappear, but I would like to be plugged back into whatever the bigger, greater system is we already developed and is already lingering in our body from bygone times. And as much as I can jumpstart of it, I would like to do that. I do think there's a lot of practical mysteries. There's things that we've there are things about human relationships that I think are relevant to how we activate these abilities. And again, you can get lost in any rabbit hole you want. So for me, I can't tell you that I woke up and decided I didn't want to be a contractor anymore. And I would, I saw the light there. To me, it was like the momentum for figuring all this out was already in me. So when I woke up, people got mad at me actually. So there's an interesting thing. You learn about who your friends are. You learn about who your family is. You would not believe the kind of betrayals and like it's worth a Lifetime movie or two if I just went over all the dumb stuff that happened to me just for the people who are supposed to care most about you or the people who show up, and that's usually guilt. They're not showing up for you, they're showing up for themselves. So on one hand, it's like you got people supporting you, but are they? Or are they just there because they feel bad? They're like, well, at least I said goodbye to him one more time before he croaked. It's like not to be dark here, giddy up on that to record. But yeah, so all right. So there's a lot of things where I didn't have a paradigm shift to be different than I am now. I will tell you that I don't waste, lots of different people on the planet. I'm not better than anybody else. It's not about that. But I know where I'm at. And I would like to think that the people I'm friends with and the people that I spend time with, you don't have to think like me. None of that. But there are lots of people who are never going to want to even question, let alone try to live. There's a difference between questioning and living in what I'm doing. And I want to live in that space. And so cultivating the people around you to be the kind of people that's like, you want to do this? Yeah, let's do it. If you don't, that's fine, but I'm going to go do it with someone else. Because there are just so many people who will talk and talk and talk, or they'll kind of get it. And this is me. You want to know the answer to the question is like, the one thing I get is that I died a lot and I was in a coma, and that stops everything you thought was important and everything you thought you were doing. In fact, thank you, Keegan. I haven't invested like this in a while. All right.
Do it. Don't stop. Keep going.
Well, so on this note then, what I value, it's not because I died that I value my time and other people are wasting it. That's not it. it's that let's all wake up. What I'd like to do is to keep doing what I'm doing as a life, as a practice. And what I found really important is that I want to participate in all these conversations with people, but on my day to day, I want to maximize my ability to connect with everything so whether it's breath work, meditation, the physical longevity, biohacking stuff I'm doing. I climb, Kristi climbs. There's a lot of things that we do, as people, but activities. But I think when, having died, there are times where people, I can look at things now, and it's not that I value one thing more than another. It's just that, hell, I'll go grab a cider with you and we can talk this shit. It doesn't have to be anything significant. I think that human collective humanity, collective intelligence, that's worth our time. But personally, the most personally to me is I want to cultivate how I can amplify my experience and connection with what I think is truly an underlying linchpin to our connection to the universe as we know it, being humans. And that comes from really genuine and real connections that are extremely difficult to curate and to develop because everyone's in a different spot. And so if there's anything that I think, I don't judge anything at all, but having been dead and having your whole life, literally, you got to picture, I got to rewind, you got to picture 8 doctors. Some of them are super positive, some are kind of negative. Then you got a bunch in the middle. They're like, so do you have Netflix? Like, yeah. Well, you're going to be an invalid and you're going to be on welfare and you're going to be on Social Security. You're going to be, you're not going to do anything for 8 months. That's what they told me. Not one, but if I was susceptible to that, I have people who have doctors.
Manner.
Well, they're doctors, and some of them are probably thinking they're doing me this service by telling me this, but I don't have the kind of can-do attitude that requires other people to tell me what I can and cannot do. So my natural instinct was to snap his fucking neck, but I had a lot of wires and tubes and stuff, and I couldn't do that. And I can swear, right? I just realized
it was like, watch me. That's what you think. Watch, bitch.
Yeah, so it's like, and then, and again, I had family members, and I'm not even going to name them, but like really impactful, like, like parental figure sitting in a chair going, you will be going to a halfway house. And I'm like, fuck that. Like
I'll go where I want to go.
Yeah, but there were people who are projecting what's going on is they're projecting their need to care for themselves by caring for me. Now they're going to take care of their invalid kid. And it's like, this is awful. And then it's like, I ain't doing that. But so you have a weight of authority figures. You have a weight of what you think is a supporting circle, but in reality it isn't. And then you have to have your own awareness and trajectory. And if you don't, you could be lost in moments like this. And it's okay.
While you're talking right now, I'm realizing, as long as I've known you and as many times as I've heard this story, what it must have felt like to come out of that surrounded by all of everybody's hardcore opinions, because you've been in it for so long and they've been making all these decisions. But for you to come out of that into everybody's, this is what you should do, this is what you should do, and not feel like you actually have a person that is actually looking out for like your best interest, who's, looking out for what's actually just good for Jared and not anybody else, not themselves or anybody else. What that must have felt like. It must have felt, that would have been, it would have me questioning everything.
Yeah. So I have my daughter, my adult daughter, my ex-girlfriend, and my brother. So I'm in a coma. And there's all these studies, for instance, about music. Now, I was trained classically as a violinist, but I've loved music because I grew up listening to records with my mom, like everything from Neil Diamond and Elvis Presley to Henry Mancini, right? So I'm listening to a wide, I love music. So then I get to, I'm in the coma. My daughter, my brother, the ex, they know how much I love music. And there's all these studies about when you're in a coma, you should listen to things. I'm just going to say it. My mother is sitting there and she's like, it needs to be silent. It should be silent. So everyone and my daughter, she's like, F that. My brother, the ex, they're all like, F that. They're throwing on Beck. They're throwing on Led Zeppelin. They're throwing on everything they know I
love her. Yes.
All of them. And they put on all the best music. In fact, the picture of me in the coma is from my daughter. She's like, screw it, I'm taking a picture of it.
Yes.
But they got me to listen to music every day. And every chance, apparently, and I'm only hearing this secondhand, right? Every chance that my mother had to say to someone, shouldn't he be in silence or turn that off? And everyone's like, Jared would want to be listening to music right now. Yeah. They just said, the hell with it. And they did what I would have really wanted. They knew. So there's battles going on. And I'm not even awake. Then I'm awake. And they're like, and I know from my experience that I need to get up. I know I need to get up. They're not telling me to get up. At first I'm awake and I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do because, okay, weird experience, because I still got like on my arm, I still have two spots where the spare needles were the feeding, whatever. They didn't use them. They just put like long plastic tubes in my veins. And I'm like, get me out of this bed. I want to sit in this chair. So at first it was like, I could get up and I could sit in the chair. And then within a day, it was, I want to walk to the actual bathroom. But they weren't telling me to do that. I knew I had to do that. And so I started moving, but it wasn't with anyone's help or input. So by the time they come by with this little stool and they're trying to decide whether or not I'm good to walk out the front door, I'm like, okay, they're like, can you step up the little, it's not even a normal stool. It's like a little stool. And like, can you step on it? I'm like, yeah, I can step on it. It's like, can you step down the front of it? I'm like, oh, Christ. They made me do it like 4 times. And I'm like, oh, the hell with this. And I hopped on it. And then I hopped off it backwards. And then I hopped on. They're like, okay, because they don't want to get sued, right? But I'm like, I could do it all. And it's because I climb and I do the breath work. There's a lot of reason if your brain asphyxiates for 45 minutes, you can probably do all this stuff. But I'm doing it not because anyone around me is, my brother, my ex, and my daughter, they're not objecting. But you have these heavy parental figures like your mother and these experts, these doctors saying you're going to be an invalid over and over and over, or we don't know how you're going to recover, or all of it, like I do design, build, remodeling. I have 8 open contracts with 8 different clients, half of them in Utah, half of them in Minnesota. And I had this expedition back from, we had film footage, we had research done. There was all this stuff and all the momentum, all of it gone, re-releasing my book, all of it gone. So you're laying there, I'm laying there. And you're hearing all these things from all these people. Meanwhile, my smell and taste is just shot, and I have no idea because all they're doing is coming in with a feeding tube about this big and jamming it down a tube that basically goes right into my stomach through my nose, and it's already past my stomach in my intestine. So I'm being fed every day. In 17 days, I lost 28 pounds. Half of that had to have been muscle, but they were feeding me this brown juice. That's all I ate. I didn't even think about eating for 8 days because they would just do that to me like 3 times a day. And so there's a lot of layers to this. So I don't know if you have questions or if this is enough to digest. I mean, I could go on about it, but that I do 3 months of cardio rehab. I'm climbing again within 4 months. I'm back in Belize in 7 months. Kristi and our follow-up group were in Belize. So that, so it's Memorial Day in May. We're all in Belize in May, right?
Yes. Yeah. We were there in May.
So I'd been back to Belize again with Tom Elmore and another friend, and we were doing some preliminary work. And so but the people got pissed. A lot of people closest to me, because they're like, when are you going to rest? I'm like, I'm resting. But every morning it was like, I'm going to go to the playground. I'm going to where the toddlers go every morning. and I'm sitting on swings. I'm learning to swing again because everything hurts. Everything hurts all day, every day, and all night. And I got blood clots. I got, from where they scrape my nose, because you have a passage in your nose that connects both nostrils. A lot of people don't know that. So it's like they put this plastic tube through it. So it's like a bowl. So I'm yanking on it. I'm trying to figure out why I'm moving my whole nose. And that was the feeding tube, right? But they hook it through the middle so that you don't like pull it out, or so that it doesn't come out of your stomach. Because it's one hell of a thing when they yank that all the way out. That's quite a feeling, because it goes from the below your stomach, in your intestine, through your stomach, up your,
which most people could probably go without hearing.
You know what though?
Here's the thing: experience is like,
yeah, people don't want that detail, but then it's like, okay, these are all the things I'm going through, and all the mental stuff. But then it's like, no one's getting me up every day. I have to get I'm up. I'm gonna walk to the end of the street. I'm gonna walk to the park. I'm gonna sit on the swing. I'm gonna try to do a pull up. And then they're like, don't hold your breath. And I'm like, why? Well, because your vassals might be weak, and when you hold your breath and you're like, you're trying to do, they always say breathe when you're like trying to do a barbell or something, right? Well, the thing is, when you don't breathe, it puts pressure on your blood vessels, and so if they're going to rip or tear or break again, so you're told, like, as I walked out of the hospital, don't get stressed about anything. They're like, don't get stressed. Here's a hand grenade. The pin's pulled, just never let it go. 24 hours a day, just never let it go. And so people run out of patience. So the people who love you the most, that support you the most, the more normal I looked, the more normal because I was doing all the things. So one, I got people mad at me because I'm not resting enough. Two, I got people, like, I'm going for walks and it's hard for me. And the people walking next to me, they're walking ahead of me. That's the thing, is like, I'm pretty empathetic. It's like, I will pace myself with you, or whatever you're doing. Like, I will pace with you. I pay attention. These people, they're walking ahead of me, and I'm like, I can't walk that fucking fast. Why won't you slow down? Why don't you notice I'm not going to say anything? It's like, I'm already in enough pain. There's nothing to say. It's like, can you slow down and walk with me? They're just walking ahead. And so it's like, you very quickly become alone in your recovery. You become, it's isolating, because people really can't understand how you feel. And at the same time, it's like, I don't complain about anything, but there's a lot of levels of the physical and the legginess from all the drugs. There's so many layers to the pain. So when you're getting up and you're just trying to walk to the park and just do things a toddler can do, and just stay on it every day, and then get back into a swing of things so that you can go to cardio rehab every other morning and not miss anything for almost 3 months, and start to work out again and do all of it while you're listening to all the noise. It's yeah, at least for me, to take a breath here, that's a little bit of what it's like. A little bit of what it was like.
So basically what Jared has told the audience is, do not have a widowmaker heart attack. If you can avoid it, avoid it in all the ways. Stop eating grease.
Yeah, that, or don't, in the primal blueprint spirit of things, avoid stupid things.
I don't, my dad, so in I don't remember, 2007 or 8, it was 2008 or 9. It was 8 or 9. He had a widowmaker heart attack. And his protocols weren't near what yours were. But it was the same thing. It was, you're lucky to survive. 10% of people survive a widowmaker heart attack. But little did I know that 20% of the 10% still have their cognitive abilities. So I actually, while we were in this show, I texted my dad and told him, did you know that you're a miracle? Like, basically, that's what it is. And so then you have to ask yourself, because when I'm listening to Jared talk, this is what I'm hearing. Not only am I hearing his plight, but I'm also hearing, if the stats are correct, then my dad, who also had a widowmaker heart attack, that means if only 10% survive, and then 20% of that 10% survive with their cognitive abilities, there's a purpose for that person. Like, there's a purpose for that person on this planet. If only 10% survive and 20% survive with cognitive abilities, then there's a purpose for that person, and you can't question that. It's just like the numbers are the numbers. You know, you can't, at some point you have to say the numbers are so rare that we have to look at something else.
Yeah. And you know, Keegan, doing RKEO X, I was actually working at a house when I died. So I went back, and that gal, she was a really wonderful lady, and she's had me back multiple times to do a lot of things after I died. I think I became her personal project for a bit. And she adopts out, she fosters dogs. So every day I got a healthy dose of like 5 canines of all different sizes, that part of my therapy recovery dogs. And I was sitting out front when I came up with the idea of RKEO X. And I'm like, hey, RKEO X, this works. And again, I got back from the Belize trip, and now here it is, like I'm a couple months out, and I'm looking at how this stuff can go and what we're going to do with it. And Kristi gets involved, and we're going to do this new expedition. And I met a couple of wonderful Hollywood people. Tess Cacciatore, she's a director, actress, producer, does a lot of projects. And then Ian Fisher, he's Creative Lab. His company, I mean, he's photographed and filmed like I don't know how many movies. He worked with Sunset Productions. And I went out to Hollywood during the Oscars, which was weird, to be in the Hollywood Hills at an Oscar party with people who make movies. That was a checkbox thing I didn't know I needed. And Ian got on board with coming on this expedition and filming it. And we filmed actually enough for 4 episodes, which are not done, and we haven't done anything with. But the whole process to continue, like I do some biohacking, I climb, and the meditative work and the breath work, all of it wasn't because I died, but it is amplified as far as my like how should I spend my days? Not because I think they're limited. I think they're ever expanding. I think all of our lives are ever expanding. So not to be helpful about it here, but I think it's a full circle.
And it's inspirational. At some point, I would love to get you and Jason together, because both your stories are just so inspirational. Like, to have something like that, and then to have the perseverance, plus a lot of his experience, especially in the medicine part, very similar to yours.
Okay.
And it's just very cool to see people overcome that. And then, like, he's very active here in Colorado. He does climbing and all that. So that'd be cool.
That would be great. And look, I mean, there's people seriously can't say enough about Kristi. The reality is that what's changed for me, what's maybe changed at all, is in the way I've gone at practicing my life. I've tuned in a lot more, and I don't believe that Kristi or Tom Elmore or the way our group RKEO X and the friends around me now, I don't think that they're an accident, or I don't think that they're like what I'm doing now is happening better. I wouldn't have been able to describe this prior to dying. Like, this is what I would want, or this is how it should go. And time is limited. It doesn't matter what you've done. For anyone listening, it doesn't matter how long you've done anything forever. Do not judge your life by what you've done. Decide who and what it is you want now and move forward. Do not base it on, well, I've done this and I've done that, and well, you know, I won't be getting good at this, or it'll take me a long time, or if you put limits on yourself about what it's going to take for you to try or do something, then good luck. Just go. If there's something you want to do, don't wait for a life-changing event like this to do it. And I understand that's the kick in the ass that a lot of people need, but what I've experienced, irrelevant to me, it's irrelevant to dying. I knew what I was going after. And am I acutely aware of it? Yeah. But I think that the friends and the gravity of what I think I already had momentum, or I guess who I'm being, I think the reason I've been lucky and fortunate enough to meet people like Kristi and Tom and Michael and Wayne, the people who are involved, and other friends like Gary from Everything Imaginable, Gary Cucuchulio. I mean, there's an endless amount of actually really brilliant people in my life that I really appreciate, but I don't think any of it would have looked the same if I had just kept going after the last the expedition before I died. So I appreciate you, Kristi, and the rest of the group. At the same time, hey, Keegan, Sam, this is the kind of this is the kind of energy you need in your life. This is the kind of energy that everybody needs. That's why people should be watching your show.
I don't know. Some of our past shows might have scared him off.
I can hear the cat purring.
Really? I've had my
Listen.
mic muted,
If
so
everybody
that's
just
weird.
listens for a second, listen. Oh, it's not. You can't hear it now.
See, now that, on the
That
spot,
way.
it's like,
There
I'm
it
not
goes.
going to do
There.
it.
Gone
Yeah,
again.
rub it the right way.
I know.
Well, was that at all helpful, guys?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
All right, great. But yeah, if there's other people you want to get together about being dead or living, I think Kristi and I are on the living side of things, on the kind of if there was a whole, actually, Kristi, I just thought about it. If there was a separate show about just what we've been doing, like one of the things we had talked about was journaling. And it's like, God, really should journal all this stuff. And I'm like, I finally started it. I started writing every day for the last 3 days. But there are so many things that keep happening. And then, all of us have things that set us back or we second guess. But the reality is that there's just so many things that keep.
So I'll just say it. I'm just going to say it. So I'm getting divorced and he just went through a breakup. And we're not in a relationship, but we're friends. And we have jumped in both feet to this project together. And both of us have dedicated everything of what we have into this RKEO X, into this RKEO X project. And so it's one of those, like, we've both reached a point in our life and it just happened to happen. It just so happened to happen, I don't know, at the same time where, we were experiencing similar things in our relationships. And we started to communicate about those things after we had months and months of being friends before we ever started even talking about personal things. And then we start realizing that we're going through very similar personal things. And then we start navigating through these personal things. And then here we are finding ourselves here together. And it's like, there is no denying between he and I that there's an energetic exchange when it comes to creativity. And when we're together, creativity just flows. And so we recently had an interview. We interviewed Barbara DeLong. She's an author, medium, psychic. And we had the privilege to speak with her before and after the show, as well as during the show. And she just kept reinforcing over and over and over and over again. It was just like, move out of your own way, move out of your own way. Just let things happen and things will happen in abundance. And so that's, I think, I take that back. So when we start waking up, we all wake up in different ways. We all, whether it's plant medicine, psychedelics, books, movies, just spontaneous meditation, whatever, we all wake up in different ways. But when you do, it's lonely. It's a lonely space to be in when you wake up, if you're not surrounded by other people who are also awake. It's very lonely and it's very isolating and it can make you feel very insane. And So when you start meeting people in that arena, the awakening arena, we'll call it, you start to feel a little less crazy and a little more sane and a little more stable. And I think that, you know, with what we have with RKEO X and what we're building with RKEO X, we've got this super crazy, you know, we talk about and we read about, and this is something that since I was in 2013, I started reading, you know, things like the law of attraction, the power of now, and all the things. And you are the universe, Deepak, everybody knows that one. So I started reading all of these things, and I'm thinking in my mind, like when I started first listening to Alan Watts and Terrence McKenna and Ram Dass, like I couldn't process what they were saying. It's like I didn't have the capacity to comprehend. And then after so many years of studying and jumping in the rabbit holes and digging and waking up and integrating the wake up, I was able to finally understand all of the theories and the ideas and the concepts behind Terrence McKenna and Alan Watts and Ram Dass. And I was able to get all of those things and understand what they were saying. And so to meet someone in your space is uncommon. To meet someone who's in the same space as you is uncommon. And that's what happened with Jared and I. When we met in the same space, which was really uncommon. And so we were able to connect on a way that is probably uncommon for most humans. You know, we'd experienced similar things. We'd been through a lot of the same things. We were on the same journey, seeking the same things. And here we are on your show together, talking about life and death. And I think the purpose of life is doing the things that you love, because I think that's probably what Jared was getting at, is the more we have, and I think we're both experiencing this in real time, literally, like when I say real time, I mean, it's day to day currently. We're experiencing this on a day, like day to day. Yeah. We have completely put our trust in the universe and in ourselves and creating our own reality. And we're watching this unfold on a daily basis. Like we're putting our minds together daily and creating things daily on a daily basis. And things are flowing in abundance daily. And so it's like the secret is no joke. It's not a secret anymore. you know, we can all do it. We can all create our own realities. We can all bend reality if we want to. It's just a matter of what we believe and what we perceive. And somehow we've been lucky enough to find ourselves in this universe, in this lifetime together, and we're able to create this thing together where we can go out and we can uncover Mayan ruins, and we can uncover our ancient past, and we can try to connect the dots that aren't connected. We can make sense of things that don't make sense. But I think it's a matter of a collective consciousness. It's like if he and I can connect on this level, and more of us can connect on the same level, if we can all connect on that level, what are we capable of? What are we capable of doing? If two people can come together and create magic, what can 4 people do? What can 6 people do? What can 8, 10 people do? What can 20, 100 people? What can 1,000 people do? If 1,000 people were to sit and meditate on one certain intention, what could 1,000 people accomplish if we were all putting our intention on the same thing? Who knows? It's a lost art. We don't know. We don't know how to connect that way together on a conscious level. We don't know how to do that. But if we did, could you imagine the realities that we could create?
Be insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's like you said, it's really special when you come together with people that have like the same focus and drive and passion. I'm super lucky to have the group that I have, and kind of just like you luck into things sometimes. Like we took the trip down to Roswell, happened to be during the festival. We met some people, and now we're part of this Billy the Kid community, just because we took a random trip down to, Roswell, New Mexico. So it's weird how life.
How do you go from aliens to Billy the Kid? Well, backwards.
It's actually more related than you think.
Oh yeah. So here's
Explain,
the crazy
please
thing.
do.
So,
yeah.
Billy the Kid is killed by Pat Garrett, right? Pat Garrett is killed by Jesse Wayne Brazel, or at least Jesse Wayne Brazel admits to killing Pat Garrett. Mac Brazel, his nephew, is the one that found the UFO in Roswell.
Oh, what?
And if you want another weird thing, and I learned this from my buddy John, who's a historian down in New Mexico, but Pat Garrett also helped found Capitan, New Mexico, where Smokey the Bear, the real Smokey the Bear, came from. So pretty much Pat Garrett gave New Mexico their 3 biggest icons.
Stop it. Okay, so repeat the first thing you just said, because I can't hit rewind right now. So you said that Pat Garrett
kills Billy the Kid.
Kills Billy the Kid and his cousin or nephew.
No, so Pat Garrett kills Billy the Kid in 1881. Jesse Wayne Brazel kills Pat Garrett. Jesse's nephew's the one that finds the UFO crash outside of Corona in 1947.
There's gotta be a connection.
Yeah.
Right.
I will tell you that side.
If I only had a beard.
Well, see, Sam, we've been out to Corona. Do you want to tell the very weird experience we had in Corona?
Yes, Sam, tell us.
Oh, is it the road?
Yes, our fun either tornado or the story you're going to tell, Road.
All the things, the road, the tornado, we can hear it all. Tell us all.
Yeah, so what is the name of the road? I keep forgetting it.
It's the road that leads from Vaughn to Lincoln, which will be taken when we go down to the Billy Festival in September. So another story coming, I'm sure.
There's multiple routes to get to Roswell, but it always sends us like through Vaughn. And it would be 2 years ago at this point. Yeah, 2 years ago at this point, we were heading down Vaughn, and then we were just like driving. Everything was like normal day. We're just going, and then it just like felt like we passed through this like barrier or a force field. Just like something like a bubble. Like you passed through a bubble, and it was just like, I remember I was like watching, we were listening to, was it Billiams? No, it was
Chilluminati.
Yeah. That was a tongue twister for me. We were listening to Chilluminati, and I was like watching a video on my phone, and I just like kind of like looked up and looked around, and I was just like, huh, that was weird. And then we just like kept driving, and then
what do you mean pass through a bubble?
Just like it's like, that's kind of the way to explain it, but like another one would be like in Star Wars where the droids like pass through that like force field. It's like something like that where you can't physically see it, but you're just like passing through, almost like a portal, if you want to say it as well. Like you just like we just passed through something that like I just like felt it go through, and I was just like, that's why I like looked up and looked around, and I was just like, huh, that's kind of odd. And then we kept driving, and then our buddy Matt was just like, is it just me, or are we like going places like where the time or like the miles are increasing, but the time is actually going backwards? So like it was telling us it was like 3 hours to like Lincoln, and then it was like, oh, it's 4.5 hours, then it's like 5 hours. And it just like kept going back, but like we kept going, like we were gaining in miles, but like the time was going backwards. And then like Keegan was just like, yeah, I was noticing that. And I was just like, then
you were in the car?
Yeah, I
all
was
of us were in
driving.
the car.
Yeah.
He was driving. Matt was in the passenger. I was in the back seat with his brother. And like I was just like, yeah, I did feel like we passed through something back there that like I just thought it was like maybe like because we ghost hunt and so like sometimes like spirits pass through you, and so I was just like maybe we just passed through a spirit not knowing it. But like once we started seeing that, we were just like, huh, that's very odd. And so usually an 8-hour trip took us like 10.5 hours to get there. And then when we arrived in Lincoln, he ended up getting a call by like our Airbnb place, and they were just like, hey, sorry, one of the caretakers of the place like died in the front yard. And we were just like, oh. I don't know if
we should go home like immediately.
I mean,
like
that doesn't really
I feel like
scare us.
this is like a prelude to go home. Go home.
You would think, but that stuff
Turn around. There are chainsaws in the woods. Turn around.
It was a nice little cabin in the woods. Nothing around for another hour.
I mean, there was a house like a little bit down the way.
Exactly how they want it.
Yeah, but it was the weirdest thing because I remember just driving and you would watch the distance go down, so you have less and less miles to go to get to Lincoln, but the time was going backwards, like your estimated arrival, and I was like, this is weird. Never had that happen before or since, so I don't know what it was about that night, but
right,
weird.
And then like last year we were going down that same road, and then we just like we're driving down it. This time the time was normal, everything was fine. It took us like 8 hours to get through there. But we just see no clouds, nothing, but then just like a giant dust tornado that just like was there and then just like kind of ended before we passed by there, and then just saw a bunch of little like dust devils like popping up everywhere, and we were just like, this road's interesting. Well, I wonder what we're gonna see this year. It's like, yeah.
So when you say dust devils, you mean like little mini tornadoes everywhere?
Yeah. The ones that like where winds like pick up and then just like spiral through and then just like dissipate because they're not strong enough to become actual tornadoes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but we saw one that like was potentially one because like it was reaching up to the sky, but there was still no clouds or nothing behind it, and it eventually dissipated. But then we would just see. I think we saw a total of like maybe. There was like 4 that got like kind of tall, but then just kind of dissipated. But like at least like 17 to 19 like little small ones that would like pop up every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
It was crazy. This road's crazy.
This world is so crazy. Have you guys had any like UFO experiences?
I've had 2.
Oh, please share if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind at all. I've technically had potentially 3 to 4, depending on interpretations of them. One was, I don't know if I would consider it a UFO or just a paranormal phenomenon, but like I was with my cousin and we were at his mom's place in the hot tub, and we were just like sitting there looking up in the sky, and there was like this cluster of like four like planes, or like what looked like kind of like, yeah, just a cluster of 4 planes that were just like doing circles, and like there was like multiple clusters that were just doing circles over his house, and like there was like a couple of like squadrons of them just like doing like small circles and just like circling around, which we were like, that's kind of strange, like to have like 4 like really in close proximity, like a squadron, like they were creating like a diamond. And like we're just doing like these like small circles, and like you would see another one, like another group off on the side doing small circles, which over Inglewood and Denver is kind of odd. But like I remember just like sitting there, and then like I was facing kind of more east, he was facing more west, and then like out of the left corner of our eyes we just see like this orange like light like dip down and then dip off, and we were just like both kind of like looked, and we were just like, did you just see that? Because I saw that. And like he has a fence there, so it was like really weird because it just like came down and like darted off, and we were both like, that's very odd, but like kind of crazy. And like we just like, did we just see that? And then we saw those like planes, and I was just like, there might have been something that they're like looking for or something or not. I don't really know.
They were looking for the orange glow. That's what they
It's
were
very
looking for.
possible.
So like 20, I don't know, I'm not going to give away my age. Something years ago, I was on a high school playground, or was I, with someone, or was I not? There was a witness, and he or she maybe saw what I saw, but it doesn't matter. We saw the same thing, an orange light hover just above the trees. It was just this bright orange light, and there was no sound, hover above the trees, and then it just zoomed off into space, just gone. Like you couldn't see it. It was gone. And that was 20 something years ago. And I just recently texted the person that was with me within the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, and said, hey, do you remember, like, I experienced this. Do you remember this? And he validated. I saw the same thing you did. So it wasn't just like it wasn't a one person thing. There was 2 of us that saw the exact same thing, and we haven't really spoken in years. So it's just undeniable. I don't know why we hide it.
I don't know why either. I mean, I kind of know why, because it would scare a lot of people and cause a giant stir, but it's also something that I don't see what a big deal about it being known would cause either. I mean, there's lots of shows that have tried to like kind of explain it and talk about it like very subliminally, and like a lot of those were like popular, like Star Trek or Stargate or Star Wars and other stuff like that. Like they talk about a lot of those things like kind of happening, and like mentions of it, which I think maybe are probably a way of disclosing it to the public. Then you have shows like UFO Hunters, which were told to stop doing their thing because they got too close one time.
Yeah, if you like UFOs, I'll have to send you a video we have on the channel with our buddy Alan, who saw the Phoenix lights in person. So that one was pretty cool because he lived in the reservation just outside Phoenix when it happened in '97, I think is when it happened. So yeah, that one's interesting.
Like original video of that?
No, he saw it in like person.
Oh.
He doesn't have it.
Person.
Yeah, but he tells his story and his input. We have a couple other UFO people on our channel.
My other one was we were driving to a concert, and like there was a light that like came through or like was shining through the clouds, and then just like kind of darted up in like behind that. And then the other one I think was back in 2008, where I saw like just like a straight metallic object kind of like hovering above Crystal Valley, and it was just like sitting there, and it like sat there for like a long while. And then I was just like, well, I'm gonna go get the binoculars and like take a look at this. And when I went to grab those, it was just it was gone.
It's gone.
It was just like, nope, you can't. But like my craziest one is me and my buddy were going up to Keystone in Colorado, because he was invited to like a kind of like an outdoor show where like he would like play music with a couple other DJ friends, and we had like a bonfire and was just like chilling, having a good time. And then like he was off in the woods like having a pee, and he saw like something like come down through the clouds and then like quickly like jump back up. And then later that night while he was DJing, like we were just chilling, and like I looked over across, because like we were on one mountain and across there was like another one, and I just see like these like I want to say like 13 to like 12 just like perfectly white circular orbs. And I wear glasses, and most lights have like reflections off of them. Zero reflections on these lights. They were just like perfect circles, kind of like changing, like had like a little bit of like blue kind of like mixing in with them, and it like looked like it was rotating but not at the same time, and it just like sat there, and like it was just sitting there for like the longest time. And then me and this other dude kind of like walked over to like the kind of the, like the edge of like where we like started to stick down, and we're just like, I'm seeing this, are you seeing this? And like we were just like, yeah, this is wild. And it was like probably like 10-15 minutes, and then it just like vanished. And then about like, because we just like sat there and like stared at it and was just like, did that really just like, did we just see that? Like, is that really a thing? And then like all I remember seeing was just like this orange glow, like almost like a fire was being started, but then like kind of disappeared as well. And then like car lights turning on, and like them, like somebody like trying to like was driving away, but like didn't seem like they were driving normal. Like it seemed like it was like a little bit off, and I was just like, did we just witness an abduction or like the aftermath of one?
Was anybody missing from the party?
Not from the party. It had to have been like something else or somebody else, because like everybody that was at the party was still at the party.
Accounted for it? Okay.
They
well,
were
thank God
accounted for it, because like
Yeah,
it was
that's good.
across the valley. It was like it was a decent ways away. But
Jeez.
the other crazy thing from that night was my buddy was staying up there because he had to do that, but I had to work in the morning. So like as I was leaving home, like I had this weird experience where like it felt like I the best way to explain it, and the way that I always explain it, is like I felt like there was like a shackle that was like on my mind that like broke a little bit that night. And is the best way to explain it. Like something like broke, and it felt like a release. Like something was like releasing of like its grasp. And that's the best way to explain it.
What is its?
What?
You said its grasp.
Well, like something that was like had a grasp on my mind, like maybe.
Yeah. What had the grasp though? Like what was keeping it closed?
It was probably just like my tunnel vision thinking that like maybe got like broken more than it was already. Because like I was definitely like do question a lot of things and like see things from like not just like, oh, this is as it is, and it's just like, yeah, but what if you look at it from like these different angles, or like from a different way, or like not in your way of thinking. And like that is also like intensified after that night, where like it felt like it was just like, no, maybe there's a little bit more to think about with these scenarios and all of that. And that also kind of shaped a lot of things. And that was back in, I think 2017. I don't know. My mind's a little jumbled after.
It's a crazy path to awakening for everybody, I think.
Oh yeah.
You know, whether it's UFOs or plant medicine or death, you know, I think the path to awakening is different for every person in every journey, and unique to every person in every journey. And what is your awakening might not be mine, and what is mine might not be yours, you know. Like I think it's just different for everybody. And I think it's also appropriate at different times in our lives. Sometimes we're ready and we have the capacity to wake up, and sometimes we don't. I think it's interesting to have, you know, to listen to all of these different experiences, and listen to people that have had these different experiences, and then witness where they are on their journeys. You know, like versus the people who haven't had similar experiences. They're typically on different places in their journey. Like if you haven't experienced something that you can't explain, then it's easy to live in the box that you can't explain.
True. The box seems so like cagey after you've like had it open a bit.
But it's easy though. It's easy if you don't want to think for yourself. You can just easily operate inside the box without having to think for yourself. if you want to think for yourself, you got to get out of the box.
True.
What about oceans under the ocean?
Jared,
So
I've been talking a long time. It's your turn.
Oh, are you sure?
Yeah. Guys, this is Jared. Jared, meet the audience.
Oh, right. Yeah, there's just a large body of sealed up water. Well, there's a couple things. There's some analysis that says that, yeah, there's maybe even liquid water under the ocean currently, but there's also trapped crystalline, within a layer of rock that would indicate that there's more water on this planet than we could have ever possibly imagined. That is way beyond the existing ocean as we know it. So there's a lot about this planet we don't know. It goes back to that whole, like, how long do you want to live? And it's like, how do you get bored after 100 years, but whether it's the center of the earth or the ocean under the ocean, or the ocean and what's under it. Yeah, it's pretty weird.
So we really don't know what the core of the earth being this molten lava rock is just theory. We don't actually know if the core of the earth is molten lava or water. We don't know. We've never been there. So, I think that there's definitely new science that shows that there is an ocean under the ocean, that there is a spongy layer inside the mantle of the earth that absorbs water. So that's interesting, because the water that the mantle absorbs is like 3 times the amount of water on the surface of the earth, which is a lot of water. So I think that's an interesting thing that maybe should be explored a little deeper.
Well, especially for everything, there's water consciousness, but then, with the Nobel laureate that discovered AIDS, I'm sure some people have seen the documentary on YouTube, but the idea of water transmitting memory, like a memory stick. So you got to wonder if we have collective human consciousness and that's stored in our DNA, and we prove that out even with worms, that parentally you can pass direct memories to worms. Well, we know that we have memories where we're like, oh, is it my past, or did I live? Or people think I had another life, because they have a memory. And you go into a field and you say you're on a farm and you find the farm, and there's a farm there, and it was a farm like 300 years ago. But the thing is that, what if, in our ability to be collectively connected, what if what we download when we think, hey, and no one's going to change, it's not about changing anyone's experience of it, but if it's, hey, I lived this other past life and here's all the details. Well, what if you just downloaded the stored genetic memory that's also part of a collective consciousness that's stored collectively in our DNA? But how much further of a leap is it then to think if water itself has memory? What about the memory of the water that's specifically locked up in these rocks, which must have been surface water at some point? And then what is the cycle of the existing ocean with what is stored water? And how much of that could actually be stored data of billions of years of lifetimes of information? So, food for thought.
Well, my next question was more about Belize and the Mayan pyramids. How do they compare to, like, maybe Sudan? Like, because Sudan has quite a bit. Like, I know it gets looked over because of Egypt and whatever.
I know.
But how do they compare with, like, Sudan, perhaps?
No, Sudan's cool as hell. I mean, yeah, okay. The Mayan Empire was tens of millions of people, and we're busy uncovering, and it's just the middle metropolis of metropolis after metropolis of ongoing. The Mayan Empire was massive, and they get no credit for it. But the Sudan pyramids are as complex as the ones on the Giza Plateau, the most advanced, older constructions, and they just get ignored, and it's bizarre. So I'm right there with you. I think they deserve, as the area around those pyramids in Sudan deserve as much attention as what's on the Giza Plateau or anywhere else. And somehow it's like, oh yeah, there's pyramids there, but there's pyramids in Italy. I mean, the same kind of
There's
polygon.
pyramids everywhere. There's pyramids all across the United States. There's pyramids everywhere.
And the Mayans ones are dynastic, you know. Yeah, okay, fine. Some of the blocks are like, they're not a ton, but they're hundreds of pounds and they're big. And it looks like maybe the Mayans, maybe they got ambitious, but really it's like, ooh, there's just this inkling. Some of the large megalithic carvings, they're megalithic in size. Some of the carvings and the stones that they use. So some of them, a lot of the Mayan stuff is small. But then they got these massive carvings that are like at the base, like they built a pyramid over like a megalithic carving. And it's like, did you just use it because the rock was there, or was it already something else? Because there's megalithic ruins in Central and South America in a Teotihuacan. They never show them to you, but you go around the sides and you can see pictures of all these megalithic ruin things that they did, you know, didn't fit the narrative of rebuilding Teotihuacan or whatever. And they're there, or you know, they're just laying around these clearly megalithic constructions, and they kind of build around it. So that's cool. So clearly the Mayans are another dynastic group that came along. Some others absolutely epically destroyed society's ruins, and they built their own thing. But man, that stuff in Sudan, if it wasn't so crazy in that country, it's like, who doesn't want to go look at those things? And who doesn't want to dig like 150 feet in the sand? Oh,
I do. If I could get the go ahead, I would do it for anybody
that's RKEO X.
that could give me the go ahead. I would dig in the sand.
We do that. RKEO X does that. We go out and ask.
I would dig in the sand. Yes.
You know, we've been in talks with some people in Peru. We actually like doing some actual digging and actually some foundational work, some engineering, and some actual way for us to really get into some of the deeper parts of the megalithic constructions and see if we can't figure some stuff out. So if we could get to Sudan and talk to the right people and do the same thing, yeah, that a lot of that sand needs to go away. We need to like dig. That sand is just
deep. Let's do it.
Yeah. So I don't know about you guys.
I'm sorry, a pain in the ass. Is that what you said? You said the sand was a pain in the ass? What?
The sand is just like it's like hundreds of feet thick, and it wasn't there before. And it's like we got to get rid of the sand.
Oh, so it's a pain in the ass. Yeah, that's not what I thought I heard, but yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm getting into details. I'm already, you know, like we get the permission, and now I'm into the details. I need to back up.
Hey, that just means you're excited about it. That's good to have passion, and especially in the subjects. I think a lot of times too, it's important to like pass along that passion to the younger generation, because it feels like there's such a disconnect. Like they're just not interested, and maybe it's the way we teach it. Like to say it so much, like reading a textbook is not as much fun as reading a fiction book or a good author that can write a nonfiction book. You know, very different.
I used to be a teacher.
Okay.
I taught business education, and it's just, you know, they don't have any control, these teachers. They don't have any control over what they're teaching. You know, it is passed down from the state. It's state standards, which are passed down from who knows who. You know, so all of these standards that these kids are supposed to meet, these testing standards, whether it's, you know, ELA or math or, you know, social studies, it doesn't matter what it is. Like in any of these standards, they're passed down from the state, which is passed down from, you know, who knows who makes these standards, you know, who knows. But what I do know is we're memorizing historical facts that are false. I do know that. And I do know that teachers are asked to pass students just to pass them for political reasons. So hence I'm not a teacher anymore. But you know, what these kids are taught in school is so far off from the truth. If we aren't, as our generation, if we aren't talking to our kids and youth about actual history and what's going on, if we're not planting seeds of truth, And because truth resonates in a body. And when you plant that seed, it grows. And we don't have to teach them the way. We don't have to teach them awakening. We don't have to teach them how to wake up. We don't have to teach them this is the path to wake up. We don't have to do any of that. We just have to plant the seeds of awakening. So if we can just plant the seeds without pushing it, these kids will find their way. They're already curious. This next generation is born asking questions. You know, that's the biggest thing in the workforce now is you've got this new generation of this workforce coming up asking these questions like, well, why do you want me to do this? You know, bosses can't just pass down orders anymore without being questioned. You know, you've got these younger generations saying, well, I need to understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. You know, whereas before it was just like the orders are passed down, you get the orders, you perform the orders, you don't ask questions, you just do. And now these later generations after us are asking more questions. They're saying, well, why? And it looks like it's a problem for the older generations. They're literally having meetings about it. I've been in them. They're having meetings about, you know, how do we deal with this new generation? How do we integrate this new generation of curiosity? And it's basically let it be. Learn from it. Let them in. You know, like that's all we need to do is let it be, learn from it, and let them in. Let them ask the questions. Maybe they have questions that we wouldn't ask before. You know, and they're also they're on their own human journeys trying to understand who they are and where they come from and where they're headed and what their purpose is here. So we're all doing the same thing here as humans, just trying to understand ourselves. We can't judge it by generation. You know, we have to be open to, you know, it's like just like I remember, what was it, Nixon's generation, that it was like, this is your brain on drugs, and it was a fried egg in a pan, and that was a commercial that was on TV.
I've seen that.
That was Sam.
Do you remember that?
I don't remember it specifically.
I look too young to remember that, Kristi. I look too young to remember that.
I remember it. I remember seeing the commercial. This is your brain on drugs, and it's just a fried egg in a pan.
They were
and
off. It's scary.
Just like way to scare the shit out of people away from drugs. But the thing is, why do we want to scare them away from drugs? It's not drug safety. It's because we don't want to open the pineal gland.
Well, what about like, so with the Mayans and stuff, I know with recent genetic studies, there's been connection with like South America to Australasian people, showing more maybe that there was a lot more sea-bearing people before we thought. Like, have you seen any influence in Maya from other countries, or vice versa, like influences from the Mayan civilizations, maybe just architecturally in other civilizations as well?
There's a solid indication of they don't give China any credit for coming to America, and it's pretty clear that there are walls and indications of, and linguistically, that from California all the way down to Central and South America, you have an influence of Chinese. There's that admiral that came like 400 years ago, but there's clear. No, not to Antarctica, but to the Chinese. There was an admiral that built this massive fleet about 400 years ago, and they sailed and they hit California, they hit Central and South America, and there is clear genetic evidence that there is Asian descent directly in the Mayans, and that's 400 years ago, right? So clearly they knew about the place and they came before. So if you got the Phoenicians and the Romans coming on the Atlantic side, it's pretty interesting to see that there seems to be this Indo-Asian thing going on from what clearly, based on the names, the dialects, some of the, again, and the genetics, that you have Asian influences in Central and South America, and all the way into North America, and we have no history of it. We don't talk about it. So I don't know if you were thinking more culturally, but I kind of think back to that, going like, are we ever going to investigate this? Because yeah, every other emperor decided to burn the entire history of China, and so there's a lot missing. But the Chinese were pretty active for well over 1,000 years. So it's like, how many times did they come here, and why are there all these linguistic? Why are they? Why are they? I don't know. There's just a lot of. We have no answer. That's my great answer. There's no answer.
That's the best answer there is we don't have an answer. We don't know.
But the genetics are there, the linguistics are there. There is notes of it, at least we know at least 400 years ago. And then we know that obviously more in antiquity, it's like, I don't know how far those genetic markers go. Like if we can know enough about those genetic markers and say, well, yeah, they're Asian genetic markers and they date back, are they 400 years? Are they 1,400 years? Are they 2,000 years? Are they 3,000? And then again, if the Phoenicians and the Romans were coming here, it wasn't just the bay, like off of the Bay of Amphora jars off of Brazil. It's not. They're like, oh yeah, just one Roman vessel got blown off course. It doesn't seem like that. Not from what they're finding. It seems like they knew they were going there. No, I don't think so. But we don't seem to get it that the Phoenicians are in the Great Lakes. I mean, we have all the copper mines in Michigan. They've been 20 years. The Ancient American Preservation Society has been meeting about all the ancient copper mines, and each copper mine is like a fingerprint. So there's one guy in Turkey who's researching it that the Preservation Society brings up every time I just spoke there for the first time. Tom Elmore and Michael Cremo was there, and we're speaking, but they always bring up the one researcher in Turkey who's like, yeah, all the copper from the Bronze Age came from Great Lakes. It's like, we were here. Everyone was coming to North and Central and South America. So architecturally speaking, why are there megaliths that the Mayans are building around, and these big faces and these big stones? And it's like they're adapting something that was already there that looks just like something in Egypt or just like something in Angkor Wat.
Which is why people think which may or may not be, that we were all just one. Like all of the land masses were combined as one at one point in time, because there's so much congruency among masses, divided masses at this point. And so I think that's why like Pangea was a thing, or is a thing, because it makes sense. It's easy to make sense of Pangea. It's easy to make sense of it because we were all together at once. We were all one land mass. And
well, I think also Kristi's we've been able to, before RKEO X launched, before her and I launched the podcast, we got to pre-record with Michael Cremo. And as you know, have you guys interviewed Michael? I mean, do you know Michael? So he wrote Forbidden Archaeology, because you guys have been doing this a lot, so I shouldn't assume who you haven't. Sorry, but yeah, Cremo notes all the paleoanthropological finds of how many, not just hundreds of thousands and millions, but tens of millions of years of human history. So would it be realistic that Pangea, when there's 150 million year old boot prints and 60 million year old toolings found in Table Mountain in California, and all over the world, there's clear indications that we're not talking about like just pre-Younger Dryas. I mean, hundreds of millions of years of human history. So would it be that crazy to think that we have been here for billions of years, had that Pangea, that we were unified physically, not just by plane or astral projection, maybe all of it.
Yeah, there's a footprint track with from a dinosaur, but you can actually follow it from South America, and then the rest of it's in Africa. It's the same track way.
Makes no sense unless we were all one.
That's crazy.
Connected landmass.
Yeah.
Dinotopia was real. I have the book. They were riding dinosaurs.
When you talk about like lost knowledge, I mean, that happens even like we do it to ourselves, Caesar lit fire to his boats, which caught the Library of Alexandria on fire. And now we lost all of that for all of civilization, all that knowledge just gone.
Well, the second biggest one was in Greece. So,
which you have
there's
to question yourself. It's I'm sorry, Jared, that was intentional. That I feel like that library burn was intentional. But go ahead. That's just my opinion.
The theory that the Antikythera device came from the Greek library, and that was the second. And who says it was the second biggest? They say it's the second biggest because everyone talks about Alexandria, but the knowledge that was at the Greek library, and that was as old as the Egyptian and as large. And then you have, again, all the Asian ones that the emperors every now and then decided to burn their history. So now what? We lose that, and then we're stuck with what? Collective human consciousness, fragmented DNA memories of things that we think of as, yeah, maybe they're second lives or not, but we have all these the Akashic records, nobody can argue with downloading something, right? So there's all these banks left, and we always think of a physical location for a library, but yeah, fine, Dead Sea Scrolls. But beyond that, well, the Mount Vesuvius, all the stuff they've been finding. I just read another article of them. Actually, someone just won an award. They were able to, again, they've been splattering all these crusty scrolls from Mount Vesuvius. There's massive libraries and there's massive scrolls that are charred, but they didn't want to unroll them because they're going to break it. But they've been able to use AI, and they've been able to use scanning techniques, and they're starting to read the scrolls. So maybe there's a lot of contemporary knowledge that might be redundant scrolls from what could have been other Greek. And yeah, granted, Vesuvius, I know we're talking Roman, but what if some of that was Library of Alexandria? What if some of this stuff can really be unlocked, and it's not just the 100th story of Goliath or something Zeusy.
The pessimist in me is just listening to this thinking like, we're never going to know the truth. Like, it doesn't matter what they unravel or what kind of technology they use. They're never going to tell us the truth of what's on those scrolls. Like, we're never going to know the truth. They're going to tell us what they want us to believe the scrolls say. Yeah. They're not going to tell us what's actually on the scrolls.
Mm-hmm. It is very unfortunate.
I know, it is. We just live in an age of, I don't know. I would like to say ignorance, but it's less. It's less than that. It's not ignorance. It's like we want to know, we just can't. There's this. Yeah, it's just we're all left trying to figure it out and put the pieces together. And you've got these different groups. You've got UFO people, and you have paranormal people, and you have consciousness people, and you have, ancient human history people, and all these people like coming together in all these different arenas because we know somehow all of us fit together. We just don't know how yet. But we know, like, your knowledge and my knowledge and your knowledge and your knowledge and your belief and what resonates with you and your perspective and all of these things that we've learned and studied, and for the people who have done the inner work and have grown and have realized and self-actualized, there's a moment where at some point you just have to like look at each other and say, like, okay, we know what we know, here's where we are, and we love each other through it and accept each other as a society. Mm-hmm. And we take what comes, because there's nothing we can do about it. It's just like all of this UFO phenomenon that's happening right now all over the world. There's nothing we can do about that. There's nothing we just see it happening in the skies, and we watch it on TikTok and on YouTube and on Instagram, and we see these videos and we see these things. And you know what I think is the craziest thing is it feeds into algorithms. Like, I don't think that the people who don't believe in this stuff are seeing these things. I don't believe that the people who believe in UFOs and the paranormal, and I don't think that their algorithm is fed these things. And so I think when your algorithm is built on social media and you're fed these things and you see these things, that opens your world to what you're looking for, right? It's like creating your own reality, but in an AI reality. It's like, so we have Instagram and we have Facebook and we have TikTok and we have all these things, right? And we're getting on here and we're posting videos and we're doing these things, but we're creating our own algorithm within that platform. So we're creating our own reality within that platform. So what we're being fed back to us is the reality we're creating. So if we're creating a reality of UFO phenomenon and consciousness and whatever it is that you're seeking in your life and you're clicking on and you're creating, then you're building this algorithm and you're creating your own reality. And that is actually what we're doing in life. Like what we're doing in social media is what we're doing in life. Like we're creating these algorithms in social media like we're some AI component, right? Like and all of these things are being fed to us through meta, whatever we want to call it. But life is the same way. So what's the difference in the life that we're living in social media? What's the difference in the programming in the life that we're living in that programming? Like how do we know that we're not, okay, so try to stay with me here. How do we know if we are constantly feeding the machine and the machine is feeding us back, right? And the machine is feeding us back what we want. So we're putting in, let's just say, green daisies in our search bar. And so then our algorithm starts feeding us back green daisies. Okay. Like we're creating that algorithm. We're building it. We're doing the same thing in life. In reality, we're creating our own algorithm. We're taking the pieces and parts that we've learned from and that we know, and we're putting it together and we're creating our own algorithm. So when the Gnostics or the great philosophers say we create our own reality, this is actually what we're doing. Like when you think about the way Facebook or Instagram or TikTok creates an algorithm to feed you the things that you're looking for, the things that keep you interested, right? That's what life is. Like we're building our own reality by moving in the direction that we want to go. And then life in turn feeds us what we want. And that's the law of attraction. And it doesn't matter if it's a Facebook algorithm or if it's real life, it's the same thing.
That's interesting. Makes complete sense, though.
Maybe that was a little too much for this one. I don't know.
No, you're good.
Really, I think what you're saying though is important in that I think everybody's at different stages of that looping for themselves. So they get fed. You create your own reality in a way where if something new is introduced or something better for you or something that would tune you a little better, you're either going to discard it because it's not part of what you've already built for yourself. You're just going to consider it an anomaly or a one-off. And you can frequently say exactly what you just did towards anybody who's not only not wanting to maybe say, you talk in terms of waking up, but in terms of just they got their head down and they're building a fence around their comfort zone. And so the reality is that they can be fed all these things. They could jump out of that feed loop and they could try something new. And it's not just, that's the other thing. It's like just to try another loop doesn't make it a better loop or for you to level up. You're just trying a different loop. Do you know yourself? And are you actually unlocking and achieving your own levels of things? And I think that was a perfect description of exactly what a lot of us do. You can even get stuck in this world. It just, again, you learn one aspect of our history, and it's like, it's not about tens of millions of years of history. It's about the Anunnaki. And most of that we know from Zecharia Sitchin, which he made up. So then you get stuck in this whole rabbit hole of like learning myths and mythologies that were actually contemporary, and they're made up because of a guy in the 60s. Whatever. Sitchin, but it's not real. But now you're in a loop of inaccurate, a historical point, or you like a thing, or you like a flavor, you like a food. All of what you're saying can lead anybody to be just in a endless, conscious connecting loop of their own, God, I want to say misery, but I want it to be less depressing.
Suffering. I'm sorry. Is
Yeah.
that more depressing or less?
I think it's more, but it's so acute. I'm gonna keep that one. I like. I was just
because that's what it is. You can sit in your own suffering, or you can choose to get out of it. Like it's one way or the other. Like that's what this life is you can choose to sit in your own suffering, or you can choose to change it, and you can choose to change it the very next day. Like you can wake up and you can say, today I'm not going to suffer. Today I'm going to do XYZ and change my suffering. It's just a recognition. It's a recognition of your being and the alignment in your body. Like if your mind, body, soul is not in alignment, you feel it and you know it. And you feel it, whether it's depression, anxiety, stuck trauma, whatever it is, like you feel a misalignment in your body, and that's not something you can deny as a human in yourself. Like you can't deny yourself. I mean, you can pretend, but you can't forever go on denying yourself. At some point you have to acknowledge what's within, right? And so at some point you have to acknowledge whatever that stuck trauma or suffering is within. It has to come out. It has to be expressed in order to move forward. You can't stay stuck. And trauma keeps you stuck. Depression keeps you stuck. Anxiety keeps you stuck. Like all this stuff keeps you stuck. You have to learn how to move past it, to see past it, to overcome it, to perceive it differently, or to accept where you are, when you are.
That makes complete sense.
Well, before we get to like the outro, I just have one question. I wanted it to fit in because our second biggest audience is from India. Not sure what we've done, but we've gotten into that algorithm. So I was seeing if there's any sites that you would love to go out there and research better or at all.
I will. I'm sorry. You said go in order, so Kristi, I'll start since we're going in order. So, disclaimer: I've been to India for a month. I've been there for a month. I was in Bangalore, Mumbai. I saw a couple of Krishna temples and some things, and that was all cool. However, I have some rock climbing friends who have been to some of the megalithic ruins in India, and for sure, India is filled with, we're not talking like small, like we're talking Baalbek size. We're talking 1,000, 1,100 ton megalithic, poured, melty looking, mysteriously ancient megalithic ruins. And Michael Cremo has a foundation over there, and they're doing research and work. And I've always wanted to go, I want to see what he's up to. But the reality is India is filled with megalithic size ruins and megalithic quality ruins. So pretty much wherever those are in India, I would like Kristi and I to go. Please.
I don't think they're looking for permission. I think we'll go if we want to.
So I got friends with pictures of all the megalithic ruins, and I don't know where they all are because there's so many of them. And I'm like, I want to go there. I want to go there. I want to go there. And anywhere they're advanced and megalithic, it's like India's filled with this. Not to mention they have that semi-nuclear melted city that has been featured a few times on Ancient Aliens. So it's kind of like, I don't want the radiation exposure, but let's go near it.
I could get near it. Do you guys know how to get near it?
In a suit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an ancient site it's a site that made in all the Indian written histories, there was a city that was destroyed. It looks like it's been destroyed by a nuclear explosion, and with melted rocks and everything else. And so, yeah, is it tolerable, and can we actually go there? Yeah, but it definitely shows signs of nuclear or weaponized, like beyond, our current advanced technology.
So we probably shouldn't go there.
Well, people do, and apparently it's tolerable and it's not that bad, but it definitely has a radioactive element to it. So I don't know. I'd be curious to see that too. So I don't know what else people in India like to kick back at you guys, or if they send you photos, or do you have an audience that will like go to some of these sites for us and get us stuff? Do you know anybody over there?
I don't personally. I know people from Nepal, but that's a little further. But yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of interaction
Nearby.
with audience members and with them sending us things to look into more, sending us pictures or UFO or ghost stuff to look at as well, or dinosaur topics is a big one.
I would love to. I would love to look. I will say this. I would love to go back to India for all these reasons. At the same time, it's the country is very complicated, and look, it has. Yes, I'd like to go back as much as possible. It's a long trip to get there. Once you're there, you don't want to go through you don't want to flip through the time thing again, man. It sucks. You really want to go for a month at a shot, I think. Same thing when I was in South Africa with Michael Tellinger, same thing. It's like I was there for about a month, and it's I was on the edge of where the Sumerians and everybody was digging for gold on a 3,500-foot bluff where there's the Adams calendar that's 300. They think it could be a calendar that's 300 megalithic stones that's 350,000 years old, and that was cool. That all that stuff is neat. But when you get into those time zones, when you're really like 14 to 19 hours different, boy, that really does kick your butt a little bit. Of all things to tell you about, let's go get consciousness and Zen and get our time zones totally screwed.
It's the thing. It's very difficult.
Yeah, that's the thing about those types of travels.
And even we'll send us photos and videos. I mean, there's some, we can start making a list. There's some definitely cool stuff over there. Really cool. Like absolutely significant. Not like go to Egypt and see it. If you're in India and you can go to any of these sites, and the country's so big. But man, the megalithic ruins in India are absolutely mysterious. Not to mention the copper, not copper, that's where the nickel pillars are. They're pure, Kristi. They're this one was featured, I think, in the first season. It made a huge impact. I kept it as a note of the metallurgy on this thing. It's absolutely pure. It should not exist, and we don't even have the technology to purify this. So there's this pillar of I don't think it's iron. It's gosh, what is it? Nickel or something, isn't it? And it's this column, and nobody can figure out who made it because no one has the technology to make this pillar today. And there's weird things like that in India where there's still metallurgies left that should have rusted and gone away, and they're not. And so there's more than just stone in India. There is definitely some strange, like, what, why, should not exist. Also some plating and stuff like that. There again, we're talking about stuff that would be more advanced technology than what's in our phones. But very, 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 very interesting.
India 2026.
We could put that down.
That's what this sounds like to me.
We could put that down, and that'd be interesting.
India.
So because RKEO X
January 2026. Yeah,
because right now you're going to find us RKEO X. We're going to take people. You come on the website. We're going to go to Belize, end of May. We got Peru and Egypt this year, but those are all things to look for on our website. But that's definitely, I think India should be we should have that conversation.
Well, I think at this point it's going to happen.
Yeah. Got to make it happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for the inspiration.
I'm glad we could help inspire just by me looking at my analytics and being like, well, India.
Well, what about India?
Let's
not forget about India.
Yeah, no, like for me, I want to go to Nepal to do Everest, which I know you got to acclimatize for like 2 weeks plus. But I would love to go search for the camera that Mallory went up with Irving, because I think they made it to the top before Hillary did. But if we could find the camera and they took the pictures, they can develop it still, and we would find out.
That'd be cool.
Ooh, interesting.
We just got to find out where they disappeared at. So we know where Mallory is, and we kind of know where Irving is, but that's about it.
Yeah, a lot of dead sickles up there.
Right. Well, thank you guys for joining. For anyone listening or viewing on YouTube or wherever they're watching, will you let them know where they can go to find out more about you, be it website, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever?
Yes, so we're at RKEOX.com. We've just recently started an Instagram page. There's not really a lot of activity on it. So basically just RKEOX.com will keep you updated on all our shenanigans.
That's it. And if you're interested in going on a tour with us, go to our tour page, look for the Belize and the Peruvian and Egyptian tours that we're going to do this year.
Yeah, no, lots
of
of
course-
fun. We'll make sure to put it in the description so people have an easy way to find it.
Thank you.
And yeah, well, thank you guys again for joining us, and we'll definitely have to do a part 2, 3, 4, whatever. We can talk from down.
All right.
Sure.
Thank you guys.
Thank
Because
you.
your guys' rabbit holes, I don't mind diving down though. So that's
We'll
fun
do
and
it all
interesting.
night long. We can do it. Let's do it. We'll do it part 2.
All right.
Once again, Sam and I want to say thank you to Jared and Kristi for joining us on this awesome episode of Culz Interviews. Make sure, if you haven't, to hop on over to their website, RKEO X, to check out their podcasts and all their awesome work that they're doing, including, hey, they got some awesome tours coming up. So if you guys want to learn more about that, make sure to head over to their website where you'll find more information on those awesome sounding tours. As always, though, if you want more Culz interviews, including our one with Rick Osmon, click that link to your left. For more about us here at Culz Paranormal, including a Throwback Thursday episode at the CU Museum of Natural History, click that link to your right. And don't forget to hit the like and give us a subscribe, and let us know. What was your favorite part of this interview? Tell us in the comments below.